dreams, things changed size and shape, but everything was so realistic. The breakfast, the catching the school bus, my friends, they was all my friends and not just people that you didn't know what appear in dreams. Everything, was really real, which I think, worried me more than anything else, because the last time I just wasn't sure if I was awake or if it was just a dream.
Some people, while sleeping, dream that they wake up. They may get dressed and go about their daily business. Friends, family, the everyday world they know so well all appear completely normal. Until they wake up a second time. With a shock they realize it was all just a dream. Awake at last, they get up and start the day. But sometimes they wake up again, and perhaps again. These dreams are called false awakenings. This phenomenon of dream consciousness produces the alarming feeling that the whole of life might just as well be a dream. It suggests that tonight's dream may go on forever. Many religious traditions suggest that we are locked in a shared dream and that our real awakening is yet to come. Muhammad, the holy prophet of Islam, said, "Men are asleep. They awaken at their deaths." The classical bushman of southern Africa said, "There is always a dream, which is dreaming us." And Hindus say that the world is nothing more than the dream of Brahma, the god of creation, who is dreaming the whole universe into existence. In the last 25 years, science has made increasing attempts to unravel the process of dreaming, to understand how dreams are created and what they imply for our view of waking reality. The Institute of Psychophysical Research in Oxford was founded in 1961 by one of this country's pioneers in the study of dreaming consciousness, Celia Green. In the course of tackling the mystery of our dreamscapes, she studied false awakenings with their bizarre implications for the accepted distinction between dreaming and waking.
We wonder how any of us can know we are awake now. You think you know you are awake because you remember waking up this morning and getting dressed. But for all you know, you woke up falsely, and you're just in a false awakening that's been going on ever since.
In our culture, dreams mean unreality, so the thought of living in one is unnerving, as Susan Cooper found out when she was a schoolgirl of 14.
I woke in the morning, it was a beautiful sunny day and nearly 8 o'clock, so I thought, better get up for school. So I got up and I washed and dressed and went down and had breakfast as usual, and went out and caught the school bus, and I was chatting away to some friends when whether a tyre burst or something, but there was a bang, and I woke up. I thought, strange, just a dream, never mind. Anyway, it was only about 7:30, so I thought, I can have a lie-in while I ate. So I finally got up and washed and dressed and went down and had breakfast and caught the school bus. Arrived at school, and one of the boys got rather rowdy, and he threw a book which missed, and it hit me, and I woke up. I thought, this is strange. Anyway, it was about time to get up, so I got up, and I washed, and then I dressed, and I got to school, and come break time, I was telling my friend about what was happening. I kept waking up, and I said to her, just pinch me and see if I'm dreaming. So she said, quite obligingly, oh yes, I'll pinch you. So she pinched me and I woke up. I couldn't believe it. And I thought, this is strange. And then I thought, well, I must be awake this time, because I could hear my mum shouting. She was saying, come on, Sue, it's time to get up, it's nearly 8:30. I thought, oh no, late now. So I rushed about and I washed and I dressed, and I had to miss breakfast this morning. I got to school and the morning passed quite peacefully, nothing untoward happened, and I was just sitting down to lunch and somebody set the school fire bell off. Of course, there was panic stations all round, everybody was running around, and I fell over. Of course, it woke me up. I thought, well, this time I must really be awake. And it wasn't until sort of night time that day, when the day's events had gone by without anything unusual happening, that I knew I must be awake. But the feeling, it was near to panic in a sense, because I just didn't know if I was going to dream forever or if I was really awake.
A dream feels like a real experience at the time, but after waking up we say it was unreal, and nobody wants to be stuck in an empty illusion. Our concept of sanity insists on a sharp division between the dreamscape, the land of insubstantial images, and the solid, practical world of reality. Yet our own history contradicts this view, for dreams have shaped our waking world. Joseph's dream, in which the angel of the Lord explains Mary's unique pregnancy, is for Christians an experience of reality which confirms the divine nature of Jesus and the virgin birth. The 18th century composer Tartini gave his violin to the devil in a dream. Enchanted by the devil's playing, he tried, on waking, to reproduce the music, which became the Devil's Trill Sonata. Kekule, the German chemist, revolutionized organic chemistry after being led to the structure of the benzene ring in a dream. The poet laureate, John Masefield, wrote down the poem The Woman Speaks from an engraved metal plate which he saw in his dreams. In literature, Alice was able to examine her own dreamscape. But how can science gain access to dreams? False awakenings and ordinary dreams can only be studied in hindsight. But there is one kind of dream called the lucid dream, in which the subject knows that he's dreaming. With this unique advantage, lucid dreamers can do something that ordinary dreamers can't: study the dream from within. The remarkable potential of lucid dreams was recognized by Celia Green, whose survey of this little studied phenomenon was published in 1968.
If it happens to dawn on you that you are in a dream, it becomes a lucid dream. And then it's a lucid dream until you stop being aware of this. And so long as you are aware, it's quite a different sort of thing and has quite different characteristics from an ordinary dream.
So what exactly happens when a dream becomes lucid?
No, it eats and sleeps and has such senses.
In a normal dream, you may remember sitting on the sidelines as though an audience of one, watching the action.
That's Beauty's canker. I might call him a goodly person. He has lost his fellows and strays about to find them.
Or you may find yourself involved in the action, but remembering it afterwards as a sequence of events which, like fate, were outside your control, although the experience may be remembered vividly.
Surely the goddess, for whom this music plays. Please.
For some people, though, it can happen that as they are going along with the action, a part of their awareness is caught by the sort of incongruity that abounds in dreams.
Oh, the best. What wert thou, the King of Naples?
Something absurd or impossible forces them to take a second look at their situation.
Oh, dear father, make not too rash a trial on him, for he is gentle and not fearful.
And they can find themselves asking, am I dreaming? This is called the pre-lucid state. Often they come to the wrong conclusion and decide they must be awake and that the scene in front of them is real.
I'll be his surety.
But if they come to the right conclusion, that they are dreaming, then they've achieved lucidity and everything changes. They're liberated from the determinism of their involvement. They know that the scene before them and even their own bodies are inventions. They achieve free will and take control over their dream destiny, just as in waking
I
life.
have no ambition to see a goodlier man.
My nerves are in their infancy again, and have no vigor.
They're now free to interact with their dream companions exactly as they like.
Because I know I'm dreaming. And it's my dream. And I suggest this means your magic has lost its power.
You do yet taste some subtleties of the isle that will not let you believe things.
And as in waking life, the people they meet seem to have their own destinies and can be just as responsive and interesting.
To be your fellow you may deny me, but I'll be your servant, whether you will or no.
A philosophical problem.
Many people have brief moments in which they know they are dreaming, but lucid dreamers, like Ola Drostbo, one of the Institute's subjects, can sustain this awareness long enough to act on it. He's a philosophy student at the University of Copenhagen, and he's been lucid dreaming since he was 7.
It's really quite strange, because the moment you really get aware that you're actually dreaming, the moment the scenery changes totally, everything becomes more vivid and more clear, and the colors becomes more distinct, and there's a feeling of three-dimensionality which isn't present in an ordinary dream.
Meeting people in a lucid dream is very interesting. They seem to delight in exploiting the paradoxical nature of the situation, and they like to tease the lucid dreamer about whether he really is dreaming or whether they are real people.
I was running down a staircase when I met this girl, and we sort of talked. I don't know, can't remember what we talked about, but after a while I felt an urge to kiss her, and I did so. And then it suddenly hit me that this had to be a dream. This was too absurd to just happen like that. So this was how I entered the state of lucidity. And I said this to the girl. I said, "You're just a figment of my imagination. You're not really existing." And she said, "Well, you've just touched me, and you can touch me again if you like. You can hear me, you can see me. What do you need? What kind of proof do you need?" And this made me a little bit confused, actually, because it was a good argument. Well, I didn't quite know what to say to her. But then she said to me, even if I was right, even if this was just a lucid dream, we could still go on meeting like this in other dreams. And this really got me confused, and I woke up.
Lucid dreamers are often able to control the things that are happening in the dream in a way that you would call a miracle if it happened in waking life.
I tried to think of some flowers. I thought that it would really be nice if there were flowers all over this lawn instead of all the brown leaves. And after a few seconds, suddenly a lot of white flowers popped up, or rather grew up very fast. And the leaves were still there, but the lawn was covered with the white flowers as well.
Celia Green's study of lucid dreamers helped fuel speculation that their extraordinary state of consciousness in sleep could be confirmed experimentally.
If lucid dreamers were really as rational and as able to use their volition as they appeared to be, then it should be possible to learn to signal from within the dream to the waking experimenters beside him.
And that's exactly what Alan Worsley, a psychology graduate and lifelong lucid dreamer, set out to do in Hull 10 years ago. The waking experimenter was Dr. Keith Hearn.
In the sleep lab situation, the subject comes in and is wired up for monitoring of physiological measures. Now, these typically include the EEG, which is brain waves, electroencephalogram, eye movements, electrooculogram, 2 channels here for that, and electromyogram, which is a measure of muscle activity. Now, sleep consists of 2 states: slow wave sleep, where you get big slow waves in the EEG, and REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement sleep, associated very largely with dreaming. And in dreaming sleep, you get big excursions of the eye movements here in bursts. In REM sleep, the body is virtually paralyzed, except, of course, for the eyes, which are shifting about and causing the REMs, rapid eye movements. Okay, how does someone who is paralyzed communicate to the outside world? Maybe the subject could move his dream eyes, and this would correspond to an actual movement of the real eyes, which would be recorded in the polygraphic record. Alan Worsley was wired up in the sleep lab in Hull University, and before going to sleep he was instructed to make a sequence of 8 left-right eye movements on becoming lucid. On the morning of April the 12th, 1975, at 8 o'clock, something dramatic happened. Now, Alan was in REM sleep, typical characteristics here of REM sleep. And the EOG is normally random, but look here, look what happened here. A sequence here of regular zigzag movements, never before seen in the sleep lab. He had become aware about here that he was lucid, instantly made the signals with his eyes, and these came out in the polygraphic record. It was like receiving signals from another galaxy. So a channel of communication had been established between the dreamer and the so-called real world. REM sleep had been shown to be associated with lucid dreams. They were not a form of waking hallucination. The subject's memories, his waking instruction, had been remembered throughout the whole course of the night and could be operated on in the lucid dream. And for dream research, the main thing was that the dream could now be studied from within.
Since it had been shown that instructions remembered from waking could be carried out in a lucid dream, the next step was to design lucid dream experiments to be attempted by groups of subjects.
Now, I had come across an effect that I noticed in a lot of dream reports, and this was that people said that they could not switch on a light in dreams. So that was one of the tasks I gave people. As a control, I got them to switch on an electrical appliance, like a car ignition or a record player, something like that. And the other experiment was to get people to cover their eyes, the dream eyes, and see what happened, because I suspected that scene shifts occurred at that point. And this is what was found. If you ask people to switch on a light in a dream, some people simply cannot switch the thing on at all. The light does not come on, or a light may appear to come on from some other direction, but there's certainly no sudden increase in brightness. I think this is due to a physiological ceiling limit, which is controlling the subjective brightness of the dream. So that was an important finding. As to the electrical appliances, there are all sorts of bizarre features happening there. For instance, one woman got into a car, switched on the ignition. There's no noise in the hearing modality. So she made the sound of a car as if to compensate for some omission of imagery in one of the other modalities apart from vision. Another subject tried to switch on a record player, but she found she could do this at a distance by using thought control. A very strange effect. In the other case of the scene shift effect, most people, on covering their dream eyes in the dream, did in fact report a scene shift.
These experiments relied on the verbal reports of the dreamers, but the content of Alan Worsley's lucid dreams has been corroborated physiologically. At St Thomas's Hospital in London, he's been lucid dreaming regularly in the EEG laboratory. As well as monitoring eye movement, the polygraph machine was linked to selected muscles in order to detect their suppressed activity in dreaming sleep. The plan was for Worsley, on becoming lucid, to carry out specific actions using the corresponding parts of his dream body. The experimenters were Morton Schatzman, an American psychiatrist and psychotherapist, and Peter Fennick, a consultant neurophysiologist.
The experiments were designed to show whether the dream body was connected to the physical body and whether or not it was possible to communicate with the dreamer, and if it was possible, whether we could show correspondence between what he was thinking and what was going on in his physiology. Now, to do this, Alan came to the laboratory and we would design the experiment. After having decided what he was going to do, Alan would be wired up and go to sleep on the couch. We would then monitor his trace throughout the time he was sleeping, and finally, when Alan woke up, he would immediately dictate his dream report into a tape recorder.
St Thomas's Hospital, July the 6th.
With the dream report, we could then re-examine the trace, look for the lucidity signals, and compare the two.
In one of the first experiments that we did, Alan's task after signaling lucidity onset was to draw 5 triangles with his right forearm on a wall or a suitable surface. And he would indicate before drawing each triangle that he was going to do so by flicking his eyes to the right. He was going to signal 1 eye flick to the right for the first triangle, 2 for the second, 3 for the third, and so on up to 5. We had an electrode attached to his right forearm, that's the hand that Alan writes with, which would measure muscle activity from that hand, and we hope that would correspond to his dreaming of drawing the triangles.
December the 10th, St. Thomas's Hospital.
Worsley's dream created convenient, if curious, surroundings for the experiment.
I seem to be in one of the rooms in the EEG department. I thought, well, we need some eye movements to mark the beginning of the series, so I did 5.
Just as occurred in his dream, after about half a minute of rapid eye movement sleep, 5 eye movements were clearly registered in our trace. This was the lucidity onset signal.
I was looking for something to draw on, and I was a bit inhibited at first because most of the pieces of paper had things written on them. Even though I was able to tell myself that, well, of course, this wasn't real paper, and I wouldn't be messing up anybody's records. Well, there was a woman in a red dress she was sitting down. I think she was a patient. And then I found a blackboard on the wall and some red chalk. The chalk didn't seem to write very well, but then I knew that didn't matter. I thought I would mark each go with a number of eye movements, starting with 1 number.
Then he did a single sharp eye movement to the right, and about 2 seconds later here, from the electrode measuring muscle activity in his right forearm, is evidence of some activity.
The eye movements that I used to number each one were flicks to the right.
About 9 seconds after the previous eye flick are 2 more here, presumably to signal that he was about to draw the second triangle. Again, this time about 1.5 seconds later, is evidence of muscle activity in the right forearm.
Now, between each triangle, I would move to a new piece of blackboard.
The pattern was repeated with the 3rd and 4th triangles. Here are the 4 eye flicks marking the 4th triangle, followed 2.5 seconds later by activity from the right forearm.
I think I got up to 5 triangles, something like that. Well, I'm pretty certain it was 5.
So he did do the 5 eye movements to signal lucidity onset. He indicated with eye markers each of the triangles that he was going to draw, and his right forearm shows activity corresponding to his using that arm in the dream.
We even attempted a direct communication by Morse code. We did this by putting electrodes on the arm for dots and on the leg for dashes. So if Alan moved his leg, that would be a dash, and if Alan moved his arms, that would be a dot.
The experiment was actually successful in that the record corresponded fairly closely to the message that Alan, in fact, remembered having sent from his dream.
I signaled dreaming in Morse code, the following sort of pace. Sort of da-da, 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 da-da. I think I made 1 or 2 errors in the letters. I haven't yet got to the point where I can do Morse so well that I can do it, as it were, without thinking.
Our conclusions, if dreaming and lucid dreaming are the same, are as follows. Firstly, that detailed memory is possible. Secondly, that the dream body, in all the ways that we've tested it, seems to be precisely coupled to the real body. Next, thinking, counting, and using the mind seems to be very similar in dreaming to what it is in the waking state. Next, Our sense of time in a dream, that subjective time in a dream, seems to be the same as it is in the outside world. And finally, we've been able to show that there is an interaction between the dreamer and the outside world.
Alan's dreams in the laboratory have been, relatively speaking, mundane, largely because I think he was committed in the laboratory to doing experiments and to getting his mind around having to do the tasks. But if lucid dreams can be wonderful, they can be exciting, magical. Lucid dreams can involve flying. In fact, in a lucid dream, one can do all the things that one, so to speak, has ever dreamed of doing.
Well, I usually use flying as a transportation in all of my lucid dreams. At the time I had this dream, I've never been playing the piano, but in the dream it felt so easy. It was really like I've been playing it always. And while I was playing, the music was sort of being composed at the same time. I just knew what I was going to play the moment I did so.
The magic of lucid dreams is paradoxical by waking standards, and so is the lucid dreamer's behavior, when at one and the same time he acts as if he both knows and doesn't know that he's dreaming.
A good example of the paradoxical quality of lucid dreams was in the triangle dream, where I was looking for a piece of paper to draw the triangles on. I felt that I shouldn't draw on pieces of paper in the laboratory which might belong to other people. This was in spite of the fact that in general I was aware that I was dreaming and that the pieces of paper didn't really matter.
There's no such confusion in non-lucid dreams. But lucid dreams, being felt as real, yet known to be unreal at the same time, can have a profound effect on waking life. Morton Schatzman.
I first became interested in lucid dreams as a psychotherapist. People who were seeing me who might be afraid of certain situations could dream about them and could afford to take the risk in the dream of exposing themselves to the feared situation, because in the dream they knew it was unreal. At the same time, they could have the same feelings in relation to the feared thing, the fear, for instance, that they might have in waking life, so that they could expose themselves, as it were, rehearse the situation that they feared being present in relation to in waking life. Now, a particularly valuable use of lucid dreams is in relation to nightmares. In fact, many people who are competent lucid dreamers originally came to it because they discovered that that was a good way of dealing with nightmares. They could become aware in the dream they were dreaming and wake themselves up. One woman I know used to recognize she was dreaming, spin around and keep spinning, and then when she stopped spinning, the dream scene would have changed.
Knowing that you're dreaming may help cure nightmares, but dreaming that you're awake when you're not may be a nightmare.
Hello? Have you been up long?
I've just had a nightmare.
Not to worry, I've just the thing.
Holy shit.
False awakenings demonstrate that you can still be dreaming while convinced that you're awake. And the characteristics of waking consciousness, free will and self-awareness, can exist happily inside a lucid dream. Are we forced to conclude from these phenomena of sleep that the reality of our waking world is nothing more than a convenient rule of thumb? Like most of us, Samuel Johnson preferred to trust his senses when confronted with such questions by the 18th century philosopher Bishop Berkeley.
Bishop Berkeley gave people the idea that everything might be illusory. Well, not everybody liked this idea. And when a friend told Dr. Johnson about it, he didn't like it. And he said, "I refute it thus, kicking a stone." Because he thought that if you could feel pain and effort in pushing physical things, this must mean that the things were really there. If someone were to try out this test in a pre-lucid dream to decide whether they were dreaming, they might be able to feel all the sensations that they would in waking life, so they might just come to the wrong conclusion.
In the East, there is the suggestion that the whole of this world is illusion. We're part of Brahma's dream. Brahma has dreamt this creation, and when he awakes, the creation will disappear. Lucid dreaming allows us to argue in a similar sort of way. When we're dreaming, we think it's real. When we're lucid, we can see that it's not reality. Mystics suggest that our waking state is illusion, and that if we really woke up into a different state of consciousness, that the mystics have, then we would see all the pain and trouble and toil of this world is again nothing but illusion.
In fact, lucid dreaming has for thousands of years been a specific technique used to release religious practitioners into their final awakenings. Stephen Jenkins was trained in Mongolia by lamas of the Wheel of Time school of Tibetan Buddhism.
Lucid dreaming is something which has been studied and practiced in various Eastern traditions for at least 2,000 years, to our knowledge, that various teachers, the lamas of Mongolia and Tibet, for example, claim that it goes very much farther back to the ancient tradition of the shamans. The idea is to learn to project one's conscious self into a completely other experience. I mean by that something quite alien from your surroundings and circumstances where you are, to go through it in such a manner that you actually live the dream, and then by very careful practice to learn to remember it precisely and record it. One of the curious aspects of lucid dreaming is that it can develop, rather like a TV serial, into successive episodes. You can't always control the intervals. They may occur night after night. There may be a gap of days, weeks, or months. But still the sequence is continuous. It does take time, but in time the dream experiences become so clear that it is quite impossible for the subject to distinguish them from what you might call real memories of this world. At this level of lucid dreaming, there is one peculiar danger, which is that one cannot escape from the dream, even knowing that one is dreaming. I myself have experienced such things. I have written down at some length experiences of my own which relate to a slightly illusory Second World War, not precisely the one that we went through. But in one episode, on the edge of a Russian wood, something exploded in front of me, giving me a serious face wound. Mercifully, the tongue and the eyes were spared. Now, the remarkable thing about this particular dream or vision, however we started, is that I then spent a year in a hospital near Heidelberg undergoing intensive plastic surgery, which is very painful and very prolonged, and I longed to get out of the dream, but could not. And this is one reason why, if you embark on this kind of training, the lamas demand that you take an oath to face the 3 risks of illness, madness, and death. By the practice of lucid dreaming, an adept can learn that in his memory and his experience there is no real distinction between reality or illusion. He must then learn to let go of both of them. Only then can he step towards the final reality that is beyond both, and can say, all reality is illusion, and all illusion is reality. The Chinese sage Chuang-Tzu writes that one night he dreamed he was a butterfly, fluttering in a beautiful garden and enjoying every happiness. After he woke, he says that he could never afterwards be quite sure whether he was a man who had once dreamed he was a butterfly in a garden, or a butterfly that was dreaming that it was a man.
The St. Thomas's team are developing a machine which can induce lucidity in dreaming subjects.
We do this by putting electrodes on their head to measure the eye movements which occur during dreaming. The machine detects these and then is able to stimulate the subject, probably through electrodes on the arm or elsewhere, so as to raise their level of dreaming into the phase of lucidity.
The electrical stimulus is weak enough not to wake the subject, but strong enough to penetrate his dream and become an artificial incongruity. Keith Hearn has already developed a machine to induce lucidity, but a different technique is used to detect rapid eye movement sleep.
There's a clip that's put on the nose, and it simply measures the temperature of the air going in and out of the nose. This gives a measure of respiratory rate, which is linked to dreaming sleep. It's slightly higher in dreaming sleep than in slow-wave sleep.
The ability to induce lucid dreams offers new possibilities for lucid dream research. Already, communication between sleep and waking has been established, blurring the distinction between dreaming and waking consciousness. It's possible that one day more remote boundaries may be crossed. Some of the reports gathered by Celia Green involve lucid dreamers communicating not with the waking world, but with other lucid dreamers. One of these concerned three friends who decided one evening to attempt to meet in a lucid dream the same night. They arranged that if they achieved lucidity in their respective dreams, they would go to a park they all knew, and each wait as long as possible for the others. They each went to their separate beds and settled down to sleep. One man's dream became lucid, and in his dream he went to the park as arranged. Shortly afterwards, one of the other two turned up in his dream imagery. The third did not appear. The first two agreed they were dreaming and commented on the absence of the third. In the morning, the second man told the first that he had become lucid in his dream and that he too had gone to the park. He confirmed their conversation in detail, and in his dream also the third had failed to appear. The third man informed the others that he hadn't dreamed at all and was thus unable to keep the appointment. They were forced to conclude that, barring the possibility of an absurd level of coincidence, some sort of lucid dream meeting had really taken place.
Now that science has discovered lucid dreaming, we can verify this type of dream report. We can set up an experiment, and if it proved to be conclusive, then we would have to rush back to the drawing board with our ideas of sleeping, waking, dreaming, and the nature of reality.
I find it hard to believe you are mere figments of my dream.
You do look, my son, in a moving sort, as if you were dismayed. Be cheerful, sir. Our revels now are ended. These, our actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits, and are melted into air, into thin air. And, like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherit, shall dissolve, and like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a wreck behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep.